The movie begins in a dark apartment, with someone knocking on the door repeatedly. Hannah goes to check who it is and hears a growling sound, so she grabs her gun and waits. Suddenly, a monster bursts through the door and prepares to attack, but Hannah quickly shoots it down. Then more monsters appear inside the apartment, and she takes them out with precise shots, though she starts to get exhausted as their numbers increase. She keeps fighting without hesitation and reloads her gun quickly, but when she runs out of ammo, the monsters continue attacking and corner her near her bed. She begs them to stop. It turns out this is a virtual reality game, and Hannah has discovered a glitch in one of the monsters. She's invited to join this year's tournament, but she declines because she doesn't think she has a chance of winning. Hannah works as a professional gamer and also tests new games, but the job doesn't always pay well. Still, it suits her because she suffers from agoraphobia, which makes her afraid to leave her home. That's why her apartment door has multiple locks, including an electronic one with a password. After spending the whole day testing the VR game, she decides to take a break and plays Tetris on her old Game Boy. After a while, a delivery guy shows up with a package and asks for her signature, but she asks him to leave it at the door and step away. He hesitates but eventually does it. Hannah opens the door just enough to look outside, and at that moment, a little girl appears in the hallway and asks why she's scared. The girl also asks to come inside, but Hannah refuses. The delivery guy overhears the conversation as he walks down the stairs. Hannah takes the package back inside and notices that the little girl has disappeared, which makes her even more anxious. She quickly shuts the door before breaking down. Once she calms down, she calls her friend to tell her that she received a trial version of a new gaming controller before its official release and asks her to come over. While waiting, Hannah exercises to stay in shape. Her friend Jen arrives, knowing she has to text instead of knocking. Hannah unlocks the door, hides, and lets Jen in without scaring her. After Jen sets down the groceries she brought, they open the package together and find a strange-looking headband labeled Omnia, with no instructions. When Hannah presses the power button, the device automatically connects to the computer and starts running. She enters the serial number, and a robotic voice welcomes her to Omnia and tells her to put on the headband. After she does, the voice explains that the device can read, measure, and map her thoughts, displaying them on the screen in real time. It can also control devices, meaning her reaction time in games will be virtually zero. But first, it needs calibration. Hannah begins the training exercises while Jen goes to the kitchen to prepare enough food for a few days. The first exercise is about typing. She sees letters on the screen and presses them. At first, she uses her fingers normally, but then the device learns how she thinks, allowing her to type just by thinking without using a keyboard. Over time, Hannah becomes addicted to it to the point that she forgets to eat. At that moment, the landlord knocks on the door asking for rent, but Jen has to tell him to leave because Hannah doesn't hear anything at all. Later, Jen says she has to go, and Hannah finally gets up to open the door, but the training continues playing on its own. When the system moves on to the next exercise, the power cuts out for a few seconds before coming back. Hannah goes back to calibrating the device, which now asks her to try other equipment like headphones and a microphone. Whenever she feels tired, she drinks large amounts of energy drinks to stay awake. This causes the AI to notice her slowing reaction time and advise her to rest. She goes to sleep, but the device keeps reading her brainwaves, and the headphones start producing loud static noises. Her dreams turn into a strange nightmare where she sees a child's hand and a bird trapped in a cage. When she wakes up, she's terrified and discovers that her gums are bleeding. As she looks in the mirror, she hears knocking on the door. It's the same little girl from before, asking her to play because there are no other kids in the building. Hannah apologizes and says she's busy, then talks about her childhood, when her mother wouldn't let her go outside, forcing her to play alone. That's what made her love video games and become addicted to them, especially Tetris. She offers to lend the girl the game, but the girl doesn't respond. This makes Hannah nostalgic, so she looks for an old box in her closet and starts going through childhood photos. She cries as she remembers her moments with her father when they used to play together. She still has the ball from those days. When Jen visits again, they play with the ball to test the device, since the next exercise is about reaction time and visual perception. Jen gets bored and throws the ball onto the bed. At the same time, Hannah is talking about music, and the device starts playing songs through the headphones, so the two girls enjoy the vibe together. Then the next exercise requires using a pen, but Jen refuses to help and leaves Hannah on her own. So Hannah uses a tool to inflict pain on herself just to complete the exercise alone. Luckily, the task only requires drawing a small line, and the calibration process finally finishes. The AI explains that the device will keep learning the more Hannah uses it. After that, she cleans her wound, eats something quickly, grabs several cans of energy drinks, and goes back to the computer. She starts playing normally, but after a while, she stops using her hands and begins controlling everything with her mind. Thanks to the device, just like it promised, her reaction time becomes perfect, and she wins every match. At the same time, in her room, the bedsheet starts moving, and a mysterious hand grabs the ball. Hannah hears something and looks around but finds nothing, so she keeps playing for about an hour, then decides to enter the tournament under a nickname. At that moment, the ball appears again and drops to the floor behind her. When she bends down to pick it up, she's startled by loud knocking on the door. It's the landlord again asking for the rent. She asks him to give her more time, and meanwhile, the ball floats in the air and disappears. The landlord tells her that Jen had promised to pay a while ago, but Hannah thinks it was just yesterday, realizing she's lost track of time. She promises the money will be ready next week and asks him about a little girl living in the building, but he's already gone. After that, Hannah goes back to her room and notices the ball has disappeared. Later, she continues her daily exercises without noticing the mysterious shadow that appears in her room. While taking a shower, she suddenly sees a lot of blood coming out of her mouth, and her face in the mirror turns into a monster, but she realizes it's just a nightmare and tries to calm herself down. The ball shows up again in the room, and when she looks at it, the shadow appears behind her, still unclear. Her anxiety grows, so she lifts her phone with her mind and calls Jen, asking her to come over and apologizing for her behavior. Then Hannah puts on the VR headset and moves her hand over the ball. It disappears. When she repeats the motion, it comes back and turns into a small bird. She catches it, it flies around her, then lands and turns back into a ball again. When Jen finally arrives, Hannah is working on her computer to make it faster. She wants the hardware to handle her new speed so she can win the tournament, especially since the prize is $250,000. She even convinces Jen to bet money on her, promising that her win is guaranteed. 6 hours later, the tournament finally begins, and Hannah crushes all her opponents effortlessly, winning Jen a lot of money. Suddenly, something appears on the screen, and when Hannah looks at it, a hand comes out trying to grab her. She quickly pulls back, and the hand disappears. Jen doesn't understand what's going on because she can't see anything. Hannah becomes extremely stressed and asks Jen to play instead while she takes a break. After taking off the VR headset, Hannah goes to the bathroom and takes medication to prevent a nervous breakdown. At that moment, she feels an itch on her arm and notices something small under the bandage. She realizes the minor wound has turned into a large one, and she starts crying. Jen explains that she didn't win that match, but she can still move on to the next round, and reassures her that she'll stay by her side. Hannah remains silent. After that, they play some old video games, and Hannah tells her about the little girl. Jen is confused because there are no kids in the building. Hannah admits that her mother had agoraphobia and that she inherited it from her, and she feels guilty for becoming like her. Jen tries to help her go outside, but Hannah doesn't have the courage. After Jen falls asleep, Hannah plays Tetris to distract herself, not noticing that the walls and objects in the apartment are turning into cubes around her. In the morning, Jen notices that Hannah looks exhausted, while Hannah herself isn't even sure whether she slept or not. After Jen leaves for work, Hannah hears a sound and sees a shadow outside the door. Suddenly, the little girl speaks. Hannah tells her she'll give her a game, but when she turns, she finds the door open and gets terrified. Still, she gathers her courage and steps into the living room while hearing the girl's laughter. She takes a step forward and hears her bedroom door slammed shut. She runs to open it, but it's locked, and she needs both the key and the chain. Suddenly, the lights start flickering, and a ghost appears screaming loudly. Hannah bangs on the door with all her strength until she manages to open it, then rushes inside and locks it behind her. After calming down a bit, she calls the company, Omnia, to ask if anyone else testing the device experienced the same symptoms, but they tell her that everything checked out fine and there's nothing wrong with the device. They offer to take it back for repairs, but Hannah needs to win the tournament, so she decides to keep using it. She continues playing and reaches third place in the competition. After the match, Hannah is exhausted and falls asleep in her chair, and the ball drops from her hand. Suddenly, the computer shuts off and darkness fills the apartment. She wakes up and looks around, finding her room empty. When she turns, she sees the little girl standing there, saying they've been here for a long time. At that moment, a ghost appears surrounding the girl, and its loud voice shakes the entire room. Hannah covers her ears from the intense noise and pain, which causes her to collapse to the floor. Then the computer turns back on, and both the girl and the ghost disappear. A little later, Jen arrives and finds Hannah winning the final round and becoming the champion of the tournament. Hannah feels drained and dozes off in her chair, but there's still time to celebrate her victory. She has a dream about a blood-covered knife, then wakes up, realizing it was just a dream, unable to tell what's real and what isn't. Hannah screams and calls out for Jen, but there's no response. She looks at the screen and sees that she has won the tournament. She hears water running in the bathroom and rushes over, but no one is there. After turning off the water, her arm starts itching again. She tries to call Jen and hears her phone ringing inside the apartment because Jen left it there. She finds Jen's laptop next to the package she hadn't opened yet. Hannah gets distracted when the computer tells her the prize money has been delivered. She asks the AI if the device is messing with her, but it reassures her that it's doing exactly what her mind wants. While looking at photos of her father, a ghost appears near the door, then disappears when someone knocks. It's the landlord again, coming to confirm he received the payment. Hannah takes the chance to ask him about Jen, but he says he hasn't seen her in a while. Hannah eats the food Jen left for her, but immediately spits it out because it tastes awful. When she looks closely, she realizes it's full of insects. She then spends hours sitting in front of the computer, not knowing what to do. A ghost appears behind her and vanishes when she moves. Her arm starts itching again, and when she checks the wound, she sees it has grown much worse and become disturbing. Finally, she snaps out of it and decides to distract herself by playing with the ball, talking about the last year she spent with her mother. She didn't go outside, but she was happy just being with her. The ball keeps bouncing off the wall, but when Hannah fails to throw it back into the room, something throws it back to her. After a while, a new package arrives, and she takes it without even signing. Inside, she finds the tournament trophy. Then she notices a card on the table that says, "When you're ready." And it's from Jen. She opens another box and finds a new pair of shoes. While trying them on, Jen's phone rings from an unknown number, but Hannah ignores it. Suddenly, the headphones start playing loud whispering sounds that are painful to hear. At that moment, Jen appears behind her. Hannah runs to hug her, remembering how they celebrated her win, but then steps back when she notices Jen is soaked. She realizes there's blood on her hands and a stab wound in her abdomen. Hannah rushes to get a phone to call an ambulance, but when she looks again, Jen has disappeared. Hannah feels like she's losing her mind, drops to her knees, and screams in frustration. The ghost and the little girl appear for a few seconds, and Hannah realizes that the device is using her psychological trauma to control her thoughts, so she immediately takes it off. But the device's influence is still in her mind. She tries to grab it, but it feels like an illusion, while the real device is still connected. Terrified, she decides she has to leave. She runs to her room to pack her bags, not noticing the other entity close to her. She pauses for a moment to focus, but suddenly a hand grabs her jacket. She turns and sees a body being dragged into the bathroom. She runs after it, and is horrified to find Jen's body decomposing in the bathtub. She touches it to make sure it's real, which sends her into a nervous breakdown. Suddenly, the room changes and reveals its true state. It's in complete chaos. She looks around the rest of the apartment and finds it in the same condition, messy and filthy, with spoiled food in the kitchen. She realizes she's been in denial for weeks without noticing time passing. Terrified, she becomes willing to do anything to get out. She runs up the stairs despite her fear and finally reaches Jen's apartment. But when she turns on the light, she finds herself back in her own place. Hannah is shocked when she sees another version of herself killing Jen. Then the other Hannah turns to her and says in the AI's voice, "Welcome to Omnia," before transforming into a terrifying monster. Hannah runs out of the apartment in fear as the monster chases her. The chase continues down the stairs, and with every step, a new monster joins in. She feels rain on her body for the first time in years after being stuck inside, and it reminds her of better days, helping her calm down. She reaches a state of inner peace, and when the monsters catch up to her, she jumps. As she falls, she sees a bird passing by. The moment her body hits the ground, Hannah suddenly finds herself back in her apartment, with the ghost waiting for her. She realizes it's her mother, and she begs her to leave her alone, asking why she killed Jen. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door, and the ghost disappears. The police are outside, but Hannah is having a breakdown. She doesn't want to become like her mother or anyone else, so she promises she'll never leave the apartment again. In the end, the police and paramedics break down the door and find Jen's body, but Hannah ignores them and keeps playing Tetris on her Game Boy. When the police arrest her and take the device away, she laughs. But when they try to take her outside, she completely breaks down, screaming so loudly that the apartment shakes, the officers fall to the ground, and the door slams shut. And that's the end of the movie. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel.